Hey, everybody, it's Ryan. Thanks for downloading today's show. And just a reminder, as always, Wake Up War Chant is brought to you by our friends at For the Table, Madison Social, Central and Township, in the heart of College Town. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, from Tallahassee to Thomasville, and from coast to Atlantic coast, it's time to Wake Up War Chant here on 97.9 ESPN Radio, and it's a very happy Friday morning, December the 1st. December the freaking 1st. That's kind of weird to believe, but it's here the last month of 2017 to you and yours. You're currently listening to the voice of Ryan Kelly. I'm the director of digital media at warchant.com. Drew is on the other side of the glass today. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm sleep deprived. I'm running on pure adrenaline at this point. But that's about what you expect at a week like this. That's as unexpected as it gets. So we're going to walk you through it, our thoughts, and what we're hearing about what's going to happen Saturday. So let's do all that. But first of all, thanks so much for waking up with us here at 6 a.m. on 97.9 ESPN Radio, TuneIn Radio app, WTSM app. Thank you so much. However you listen to the show, and of course, ESPNTallahassee.com on your desktop. Podcast, iTunes, Podcast Republic, WarChantRadio.com. All sorts of different places for you to find our fine show. We thank you so much for rating and subscribing. Whenever you do, if you leave us 5 stars, we certainly appreciate it. Leave us a good review. And of course, when you subscribe, that helps you out as well. It gives you a brand spanking new episode on your device, on your subscription feed. You don't even have to go looking for us every day. Don't bother with the search bar. Don't bother with going to the sports tab. Just subscribe. It's a lot simpler. Radio at warchant.com is your email address. At Wake Up Warchant is your Twitter account. And, of course, we can't do this without our friends at For the Table, Madison Social, Central Township, all right there in the heart of College Town. And it's not often I'll plug the front page of warchant.com because it's kind of almost a given that, well, we're a War Chant show. We're obviously hoping that you'll get some more info on some of the stuff we talk about here on warchant.com. But listen, it's worth bookmarking right now. If you need news, if you need up-to-minute stuff on what's happening with Jimbo Fisher, keep us on your bookmarks. And, of course, you're going to see all sorts of good content there throughout the weekend. You're even going to see contests. We're giving away a Bowflex this week. You can find that link there. Enter in for a Bowflex Max trainer. You can read all about Jimbo Fisher. You can go to the message boards if you're a member of warchant.com. There's so much stuff to get to. Bookmark the page. Make sure you're staying informed. And speaking of informed, as of right now, all the facts that you seem to get together, all the comments that Jimbo Fisher's made, it certainly seems like he plans on coaching this game on Saturday. And I don't quite know what to think of that. And I don't know what to, well, who am I kidding? I know exactly what to make of this. This is a disaster.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know exactly what to think. I can't believe that this is going to happen. I can't believe we're going to trot him out there in front of however many people actually show up at this football game. And granted, I mean, the entire spectacle of Jimbo actually coaching this game is probably going to be better than the game itself. I think that's why you'll see, you talked about it a little bit, maybe a slight inflation of people, but I still don't think there's going to be a whole lot of people there. But, I mean, this is crazy. I just can't believe Florida State's going through with this, but at the same time, I understand that they're kind of handcuffed here. I don't really know what else there is to do. If
Jimbo can't fire him.
Yeah, if Jimbo is adamant on coaching this football game, I mean, what are you going to do? It's just, I would really like to get things jump-started and going. It's just, I don't know why he's got to be like this.
And that's the thing. You know, you're trying to get a coaching search. You're trying to get pen to paper as soon as possible, especially now that I would say there's probably, a 99% chance that this is happening, that Jimbo Fisher has gone to College Station and you are going to be looking for a head coach soon. I mean, the sooner you can get a head coach out, the sooner you can get a head coach in. And if anything, if I'm the university, I'm a little mad that we're hindering progress here. I get it. There's a game you need to play. Florida State needs to make that bowl game to keep those streaks going. Those streaks are important to a lot of people, including the boosters who are going to be helping search for a new head football coach. But the fact that this whole situation's going on, it's weird, it's uncomfortable, and the idea of the atmosphere of that stadium. What is Doak Campbell Stadium even like when the guy who they know is headed out the door is going to be coaching their football team and their Seminoles that they love so much? What do you I can only imagine this had to be what the Browns were like right before Art Modell moved them to Baltimore, that last home game. I can only imagine, of course, there's a big thing. I know not everybody follows Major League Soccer, but right now the Columbus Crew is probably getting moved out of Columbus and to Austin by their owner, and their crowds have been very, very full, and they've been very, very angry. And I don't quite think Doak Campbell Stadium will be full on Saturday, but that's about the only thing I can compare this to is in pro sports when a crowd knows their team's about to be relocated and they're mad and they almost want to go more to show their displeasure than they do to watch the game.
Yeah, I'm kind of listen. I'm as upset as anybody here about this entire situation. I'm kind of hoping somehow, some way, as a collective fan base, we rise above it a little bit. I don't really expect that. There's going to be some boos. It's just how nasty is it going to get? I'm not really sure. You saw Jimbo Fisher before challenge a fan to come down and fight him. If a fan just simply yelling at him that he should get new coaches, then newsflash, he's probably going to get some nastier things said to him this Saturday. So hopefully he brings his boxing gloves, as that's really what he wants to do. But that being said, let me ask you this question, because you brought up how the bowl streak is important to everybody and this and that. Is this game, say hypothetically speaking, I'm not saying this is what would happen, but is this game worth it to people to play and potentially lose your number one choice as a replacement at head coach? Just because the coaching search would more than likely be wrapped up here if Florida State's not playing this game this week. But again, it's getting dragged on. There's other suitors. There's people who are going to, whether they're at their own respective schools, who are going to get bumps in pay. Granted, I think if it was a different job besides Florida State, this would be more of an issue here. But I think just because it's such a coveted job, this might not be a thing. But I'm just saying, hypothetically speaking, would you rather have the 36-year bowl streak and lose your number one choice, or the other way around?
It's amazing this week entirely, and I think even the question that you proposed there a little bit, Drew, it all comes back to the issue of pride. It's one of the 7 deadly sins. You're in this situation where you're going to be looking for a new head coach because somebody got a little pride, and they thought to themselves, I feel like I deserve more. I feel like what's been done for me isn't good enough. I am going to do what I can, and pushed it maybe a little bit too far and put himself in a situation where what he was threatening Florida State with eventually became what he ended up with, and that's Texas A&M. And that's not to say Texas A&M's a bad job. I'm not trying to put Texas A&M down or anything, but I think for the most part, most of the folks listening to the show would tend to agree that Florida State is probably a better job than Texas A&M. I mean, there's empirical evidence, there's conference titles, there's national championships, there's NFL draft picks, all to prove this. It's been backed up throughout the last 40 years that Florida State is a special job. And I know what I sound like when I say that, but it's proven. This is a place where people can come and people can win. It's got the built-in advantages of being in Florida, where some of the best talent in the country is. It's got the built-in advantage of being a football-crazed state. And I know Texas has both of those things too. But at the end of the day, Texas has a lot of schools. There's Texas A&M, there's Baylor, there's SMU, you go down the line, there's a lot. And listen, I get it. Central, South, Atlantic, International, they're all trying to be upstarts in this state. But for the most part, this is a 3-horse race. This is Florida, Florida State, and Miami. That's how this has always worked. And especially with the fact that Florida's still got to start fresh. Miami's starting to get things going, which makes it a little bit less attractive than the last time that Florida State had a coaching change, because both of those programs were in disarray while Florida State was getting things together. But I go on that whole rant to say pride is what ends up getting your soon-to-be former head coach in this situation. And Florida State's pride of the streaks, the history, the honor, the tradition of going to bowls, of that winning streak, has maybe put their first choice in jeopardy. Who knows? I don't know what their names are. I don't know what their ideas are. I don't know what's going around. But by the way, Tennessee's still looking for a head coach as of right now. Of course, there were reports late last night that Mike Leach might be their guy. I doubt Mike Leach would be a dude who would end up in Tallahassee. But it's worth noting that they're still looking for a guy at this moment. There are other schools still looking for a guy, and here you are preparing for a bowl game, and your head coach, you're preparing for a game to get you to a bowl game, and your head coach doesn't want to budge, and it all comes back to pride.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And again, there's been this big discussion now because Jimbo Fisher, like we said, is more than likely taking this job, between Aggies fans and even just national guys talking about, well, how could Aggies fans will say that well, look, Texas A&M must be a better job than Florida State, and national guys basically shutting that down and them rebutting with, well, look what Jimbo's doing. Spoiler alert. Texas A&M is more than likely, in a completely non-biased way, the fourth best job in the SEC West. I would say Auburn's better, I would say LSU's better, and I would obviously say Alabama's better. All three of those jobs are better than Texas A&M, but A&M wants to think that they're a better job than Florida State, who's arguably a top 5 job in the entire country. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to shoot that down. I don't really care what Jimbo does. Now, if the contract that's being reported that was offered to Jimbo, if that's actually the case,
10 years, $75 million, of course, what you're talking about.
A lot of that'd be really hard for a lot of people to turn down. And guess what, A&M? It's not very smart. You shouldn't offer a guy a 10-year deal. You definitely shouldn't offer a guy a 10-year deal in the SEC West. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I understand that's what it takes to get Jimbo. I honestly think, actually, if I remember correctly, those are the kinds of crazy numbers that Sexton threw at LSU the last couple of years to say this is what it would take to get Jimbo, just to see if LSU would be dumb enough to actually throw him that kind of deal.
Turns out you found somebody. I won't even say dumb enough with A&M, because listen, Texas A&M, we already mentioned it. Texas is a football crazy state. Texas A&M is, let's face it, a little bit of a little brother. You just look at the lyrics of their fight song. It's all about how much they hate Texas. Goodbye to Texas University. So long to the orange and the white. Like, it is all about, we must be the best team in the state. We must be better than Texas. We must be better than everybody else in the Lone Star State. And you mentioned it, especially if you're going to be in the SEC. You know, the SEC's at its worst point in at least over a decade, but the West is still really hard because Auburn is running at peak efficiency. Alabama is running at peak efficiency. I don't know if Coach O is going to be the guy at LSU, but I know regardless of how good they are or how bad they are, they're real tough out at home. And you got to go to Baton Rouge every other year when you play in the SEC West. So with all that being said, I think Texas A&M just got to that point where, listen, we haven't won a title since before World War II. We are fully invested. We have these facilities. We have this stadium. I think if you're Texas A&M, you just reached that point of desperation enough to where Jimmy Sexton says, well, this ridiculous number is what it's going to take, and you say, we'll take it.
Yeah, and you know, I don't disagree. I think a lot of people would agree that Texas A&M might even be a little bit of a sleeping giant. I understand that. But they've had guys like Johnny Manziel, a generational type talent at college quarterback, and they didn't do anything with it. They have nothing to show. What is it? The Cotton Bowl, and what was the other game they got to? I'm not even sure, which tells you that it meant nothing. So the fact that they had a generational type guy with, by the way, a coach in Kevin Sumlin who, you know, he's had some turmoil over there, but he didn't do a bad job. I'm not even sure if Kevin Sumlin gets fired if Texas A&M is not sure that they can go offer and get Jimbo Fisher, because obviously that's an upgrade. But Sumlin's a fine coach. So, again, if you're not able to do it with the generational talent, and you think that a guy like Jimbo Fisher is going to get it done there, maybe he will. But I think if I was at A&M, the whole way that Jimbo has really dealt with the last 3 years of his tenure at Florida State would raise some red flags to me about offering him this massive, massive deal, because there's a high chance that it could blow up in your face if bigger jobs such as Auburn or Alabama become open in the next 10 years is a long time.
And I want to know more about that buyout, and I want to know if I'm a Texas A&M fan, and I know we've had some listening, we've had some comments, we've had some emails, we've had some people who've gotten in contact with the show. Here's what I'm telling you, Texas A&M fan, right now. What I want to know about that contract isn't what Jimbo's buyout is. I want to know what his penalty to leave is. That's what I want to know. If this is a 10-year contract, this is a long-term relationship. This is a marriage, and you can't have somebody get held hostage the way that Florida State has, quite honestly, over the last 3 years, and only got worse as that buyout went more and more and more. So that being said, at the end of the day, what is his price? We've talked about Jimbo Fisher's price to leave. What now is Jimbo Fisher's price to stay?
And you know what? As crazy as it sounds, I wouldn't be shocked if that number is pretty small, because I think A&M has done everything in their power to make this offer as massive and as attractive as possible to Jimbo Fisher, because guess what, A&M fans? Texas A&M is not as good of a job at Florida State. No matter the relationships that Jimbo does or does not have at Florida State, it would take an extreme offer to get him to leave, and that's what Texas A&M seems like they've done. So I would not be surprised if everything in that contract is to Jimbo Fisher's benefit.
Now, I was about to say, while on its surface, I do agree with you that Florida State's the better job. However, different strokes for different folks and different situations often call for different things for different people. And you're right. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a better situation for Jimbo Fisher at the moment because, well, first of all, as we've learned pretty much this week, there's a lot of very mad people behind the scenes at Florida State right now who, if this thing did get turned around, say Jimbo Fisher announced today that, hey, you know what? I've actually thought about it. I'm going to stay at Florida State. This is my home. There are a lot of boosters who would be calling Stan Wilcox, who would be calling John Thrasher, and they would say, no, he's not. There would be some revolting, I think, to say at the very least, and you'd have an extremely toxic situation. But right now, with the offer, as attractive as it is for Jimbo Fisher, right now, Texas A&M is a better job for Jimbo Fisher.
It's not a better job. It's a better situation, like you said.
That's a fair way of putting it.
There's a lot of stuff going on here to where I personally believe at this point in time, this is just what's best for both parties. You just got to let them go. Got to let them go. I know it's hard, and I know that we've heard some things about maybe Thrasher still trying to fight for it a little bit. You just got to let him go, because even if Florida State is able to keep him here, they're going to have to do an incredible amount of damage control. And I'm not – this is, by the way, a guy who did just go 5-6, okay? So there was already enough people inside the program who were a little wary about that $40 million buyout. So say you pony up and give Jimbo Fisher all of these things and up that ante even more. If he comes back next year and goes 8-4, then what? With a healthy team, and then goes 7-5 the next year, all of a sudden you had this get out of jail free card when A&M came calling, and you blew it.
Well, let's talk about it this way as far as Florida State goes. There's been so much talk over the years about how Florida State, especially throughout the last decade, has sometimes handled football PR poorly. Eric Barron, when he doesn't give Jimbo Fisher the extension after the 2012 season, even though in the long run it appeared to be the right move, it motivates Fisher and his staff. They go out and win a national title, then they get their extension. At the time, it was lambasted. Some of the Winston stuff in 2013 was handled very poorly. The Winston suspension in 2014 was handled very poorly. Florida State did a little bit better when it came to the DeAndre Johnson and the Dalvin Cook situations, but even then, there was stuff that could have been handled better. Florida State under Jimbo Fisher's tenure has not always come out smelling like a rose when they have times of PR crisis. This is a time of PR crisis where I feel like the only way Florida State loses is if they take Jimbo Fisher back. Because right now, I think the message that's being sent from Florida State is that we are not going to be bullied by anybody. We're not going to be intimidated. And if you take Jimbo Fisher back, you look like you are working from a position of weakness.
Not only that, but you're looking like you think that you need Jimbo Fisher as a program to move forward. You're looking like Florida State is Jimbo Fisher, and that's just not the case. We've talked about it. There's a reason why there's been 2 coaching searches in the last 42 years, and you can't even really say, I don't even know how much of a coaching search Jimbo Fisher was. So it doesn't make sense for Florida State to do this. They don't have to do this. This isn't what Florida State has to be about. It's too good of a job to put up with stuff like this. But I will say this now. I do remember. I think somebody brought this up earlier on Twitter. Jimbo Fisher, when we fired Bobby, didn't exactly hop right on the deal to become the new head coach. I think at one point Florida State had put out a release saying, "Look, we've moved on from Jimbo. We wish him the best." And as soon as we did that, he came back and took the deal. So if he's doing something as crazy as that this time around with all the damage he's done, I surely don't think that's the case. But if for whatever reason that was, man, that would be a story. That you talk about the 30 for 30s. That would be a 30 for 30.
I don't know what happens in the next 24 hours, but I know I'm fascinated by that stadium, and I'm going to say something I didn't quite think I'd be saying about a week ago. I'm really looking forward to being at this noon kick against ULM.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to the dynamic and what exactly goes down here. And if Jimbo Fisher is he really going to coach this game? Is Jimbo Fisher really going to go through and coach this game? I know he wants to, or is it really going to happen? We'll see.
All right, we're really up against it. We got to take a break. When we come back, a little bit more talk. And then later on, Gene Williams joins us for Lucky 7 and Over Under. Wake Up War Chant, 97.9 ESPN Radio. So real quick, because we have a really short segment, Gene Williams is coming up here. Over-unders, Lucky 7s. Drew, any chance at all, considering it looks like Jacksonville's the bowl game, any chance you think we see Texas A&M versus Florida State? I know the bowl would want it, but would the schools let it happen?
I think there is a chance. I mean, I don't see it happening. I don't. But it's like, I think, hypothetically speaking, there's a chance when you look at the bowls that both teams are up for. There's a lot of SEC, ACC matchups there. Realistically, it could happen. It could happen. I won't say there's no chance, but you're right. Will the schools let it happen? Is that something that's really going to go down? I doubt it, but I'm definitely not ruling it out because of the way that it's set up.
Well, let's look at it this way. With all that being said, it's not like Jimbo Fisher would be coaching in this game. It's not like Kevin Sumlin's coaching in this game. It's not like it would be a game completely free of all the drama, at least from the outside perspective.
But fan bases.
And both the fan bases know, and both of those teams know. But it's not like Jimbo Fisher would be on the sideline.
What if Jimbo Fisher was on the other sideline?
Oh, my God.
Then things would really get interesting.
I think at this point, we're just looking for stuff to go off the rails, aren't we? I think we've reached that point this week where we just kind of are asking ourselves, can this get any sillier?
I don't know. It's about as crazy as it could have possibly gotten, but never say never. It could always get worse.
Gene Williams up next. Wake Up War Chant, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
What's with these homies dissing my girl? Why do they gotta front?
Darn pop-ups and video ads.
Are you wasting your time again on clickbait FSU updates that are bloated down with ads?
Yeah. And after crashing my computer, the information isn't even up to date. You're on warchant.com. What's really going on with the Seminoles?
For the real scoop, you'll need to get your own War Chant subscription.
What's it cost?
Free. There's a 30-day trial offer right now.
You know I like free. Sign me up.
Use the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Nobody has more accurate and timely information on the Noles than warchant.com.
Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole source.
Welcome back. Wake Up War Chant, 97.9 ESPN Radio, brought to you by your friends at For the Table, Ryan Kelly, Drew Hicken, and of course now we welcome in the boss man, the founder and administrator of Gene Williams, the founder and administrator of warchant.com, Mr. Gene Williams. Gene, I'm sleep deprived. It's been that kind of week, so forgive me for botching the title.
Trust me, I can completely empathize with you. This has been kind of a different week for all of us.
All right, Gene, so we're putting this part of the show in the can at around 11:20 at night the night before. Just if there's anything new, let us know.
Yep, nothing new.
Okay.
Check the nuggets on War Chant. Just make it that easy for you.
Hey, that works. Of course, if you're not currently a member, War Chant 30 gets you 30 free days of access to warchant.com to keep up with all the latest nonsense going on with the Jimbo Fisher saga. So let's get into this, ladies and gents. Our last over-unders and lucky sevens of the year. Last week, I was victorious over you guys at Florida. I went 4-4 on our over-unders. You both went 3-5. And here's the thing. I don't think we've spent, Drew, probably 30 seconds talking about ULM this week, maybe?
I don't think we've spent any time talking about ULM. I'm not even sure they've really come up other than to say we don't have a lot to talk about because it's ULM week. Who knew this was going to happen?
Yeah, listen, this week was a triumph for team content. That's certainly a way to look at it. So ULM, here's the one thing I do know about ULM, and their defense is a sieve. It's terrible. Really, really bad. So with that being said, let's start. Warhawk rushing yards is at 75. Gene, you set the line. You go first, my friend.
All right. You said their defense is really bad offense. They actually put up a couple good points. You know what? I will go ahead and give them the over on this. A little love for the Warhawks.
I'm with you. Over, just because I don't know where Florida State's mind is, so I'll play over.
Yeah, I'm going to go over here, too. I know they're offensively actually not too bad of a team. Obviously, their defense is not good, but I'll take the over here.
Florida State rushing yards, 200. Did I already mention that defense is awful? I'll play over.
You know what? I'm going to go. Man, I don't know on this one. You're probably right. I'll go ahead and go over on this one.
I'll go under. I just, again, we talk about we don't really know where Florida State's head at this week. They struggled to run the ball against that Florida team last week. I know ULM is much worse, but we'll see how things shake out.
I just feel like when it comes to ULM, it's just going to take one or two big home run hits to get that number up to where it needs to be. However, Gene, I will say this. I think you've gotten a little greedy with this next number. James Blackman passing yards at 200. I'll believe he goes over 200 when I see him go over 200, but for now, I'm going to play under.
No, I'm with you on that one. You think this is a really bad defense, but I just don't. I think he's been pretty efficient, but it's not like he's going to throw the ball a whole lot in this game, so I'm probably with you a little under the 200.
I'm just going to be different today. I'm going to go over. I feel like he can hit that. I mean, again, it's the chunk plays for Florida State that gives you hope they can hit these bigger numbers.
Longest play from scrimmage, 50 yards. I think you know where my head's at here. If I think we're going over 200 rushing yards with Florida State, I think they're going to need a couple big-time runs to do it, and that probably means one over 50 yards. So, yeah, I will play over on this one.
I will go under on this. That's a pretty big chunk of change there at 50 yards. So I think just they'll have a couple 30, maybe a 40, but 50 a bit much.
Would a punt return count as plus 50 yards?
Well, I think the way we said it says it plays from scrimmage, so I technically don't think that would count.
All right, then I'm gonna go under here as well, just because I can't bet on us to bust open a play like that, but we'll see.
All right, Drew, you're always the barometer for this one, so I'll let you go first. Derwin James tackles is set at 6.
I think I'll go under on this one. I don't think he gets 6. So this week is going to be the one week I'll go under.
Wow. Yeah, what the heck? I'll go under. You know what? You'd think this is a game they would get ahead. They'd be able to sit him a little bit, so maybe you wouldn't be out there as much. So yeah, I'll go under as well.
I am going to.
Although he went over by 1 last week, I won't mind people.
I'm going to push it this week, Gene. I think it's right at 6. I don't know why. I just got a gut, so I will take the pick that I guess the odds aren't really with. Announced attendance 60,000. They'll never announce it under that. I'll play over.
Yeah, easiest pick on here.
Probably crazy to go. They've always gone well over what we've always guessed. It just seems like this should be the lowest attended game of the year, but they will come up with some kind of way to get over that 60. So you're probably right. Just over 60. I'd guess 61, 62 they end up announcing.
And let me say this, Gene. I've also heard from a lot of people from out of town and stuff like that who have said, any other rescheduled ULM game, they probably wouldn't come. But considering the situation and the circumstances and the chance that Jimbo Fisher might actually show up and coach this football game.
So it's like the accident on the side of the road. Everyone wants to stop and see it. Is what
they're coming. They're coming up to the game, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a somewhat decent crowd at Doak Saturday. I'm not telling you it's going to be packed, but I'm telling you it might be a little better than you first thought it was going to be on Monday.
Drew, what you got there?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go over 60,000 just because like you guys said, they'll never announce it under that. I'm not necessarily on the same school of thought that there's going to be a decent crowd there. I think this is a rescheduled game that a lot of people didn't expect to be at, and it's at noon.
Decent relative to expectations.
That's fair. The announced will be over 60,000. That's the only thing I'm certain of.
Logan Tyler punting average at 43 yards. That's a high number, Gene, and I don't know how many times Florida State's going to have a long field to punt. I'll play under.
The most consistent thing we've had doing the over-unders all season is when we've set it at 42, Logan Tyler's gone over. When we've set it at 43, he's gone under. I don't know what it is. He must read these over and unders every week. So I got to follow the trend and go under on the 43.
Yeah, I've had some really bad beats on this. I remember, I think it was the Delaware State game where he had that one punt that he boomed that would have gave me the over, and then they called it back for a penalty, and he shanked like a 22-yarder. So I'm going to go under here just because 43 is just a little much for me.
By the way, coming up here soon, I feel like maybe we should give out some postseason awards, and I'll tell you what, Logan Tyler is most certainly a nominee for Most Improved Player of the Year. Let's face it, you've needed to flip the field sometimes.
So I think him and Ricky, both those guys.
Absolutely, yeah. And Ricky Aguayo gets in that mention too, especially because of how many times you've kicked field goals this year. And, you can complain or you can argue they maybe shouldn't have kicked as many this year. But when you've needed them, they've both come through, and I think you've really seen that growth from year one to year two. So, that being said, we finally go to the actual over-under for this game. 64.5 is what we're calling it. And, ooh, that's tough. That's tough. Listen, it's going to go over. I know it's going to go over. It just doesn't sound right in my mind. My brain is telling me this is a game that should hit the over based off that defense, but there's just something about watching Florida State all year that makes me think it won't, but I'm still going to play over. I've got to.
I'm going to go a little under just because I feel like ULM might be a little, I don't know. I mean, not ULM, but Florida State obviously will be a little distracted in this game. I think that'll affect the offense more than the defense. So
that's fair.
They may not put up the big numbers like they should against a team like this.
Yeah, this one's really tough. I think I'm going to go slightly under too, just because I don't want the last 2 weeks to inflate my decision here. And obviously, defensively, if Florida State puts some points up, this will go over easily. But I don't know. This one's tough. I'll go under.
Drew, literally throughout myself and Gene taking these picks, has been racking his brain on that one. Drew, you kind of look like you had brain freeze. Like that was.
Yeah, I had no idea what I was going to do on that one.
This is tough because how much have we actually looked into ULM? It's our jobs to look into ULM, and at the same time, this week has been so crazy. How do you even look into this game? How do you even begin to start talking about this game? Because it's amazing that you're going to play something to keep a bowl streak and potentially a winning season streak alive, and yet it seems so irrelevant. I think that more than anything is what's crazy about these last 7 days.
You know what's also kind of weird is I was looking at A&M's schedule for the 2018 season the other day, and you know who's the third game on the schedule next year? It's old ULM Warhawks, so a little interesting.
See, Jimbo's just staying to scout, that's all. He's just
Don't they also play Clemson next year?
They play Clemson and Alabama 2 out of their first 4 games.
Wow. Jimbo just can't get away from Clemson.
Nick Saban and Dabo Sweeney, 2 guys that Jimbo Fisher's had a ton of success against lately. He's been very good against both of them. But speaking of winning football that Alabama and Clemson have been playing a lot lately, they're going to be playing for much more tomorrow with the conference championships on the line. We're going to pick them. We're going to pick the Florida State game. Let's roll. It's time for Lucky 7.
Now you have to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky?
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
I need to feel you, Jerry. Show me the money. Jerry, you better yell. Show me the money.
And in Lucky 7 last week, by the way, last week was really good for me. Yours truly prevailed. 4-2-1. Drew goes 3-3-1.
Oh.
Gene, 1-5-1. Which one did
My
you even
worst
get
week of
right?
the year. That was horrible.
What
Horrific.
did you get right, man?
I'm trying to remember what game I even got right. I don't know. I don't know. There was one game I actually lucked
You got
into.
Ohio State, didn't
I
you?
know I pushed the Clemson-South Carolina game. That was a 14.
Yeah, that one was right on the money, and that, of course, is the push of this. So, just so happens, there's 5 Power 5 championship games, there's a Florida State game, and there's also an American Athletic Conference championship game, and that's where we'll start. Spectrum Stadium, where the Central Florida Knights are undefeated, and they're hosting the Memphis Tigers, who they already hosted earlier on in the year. They ended up beating Memphis pretty good. The Knights are giving 7 to the Memphis Tigers, and I tell you what, I will take Memphis to cover in this game. I don't think they win, but Central Florida, after that win against South Florida, has yet to really. They haven't experienced an emotional game all year until they had to play that game on Black Friday. They got out a tough one. It was a great game. With that, plus all the Scott Frost stuff that's going around, I just wonder where the Knights are mentally. I think they win, but I think Memphis has a little something for them, so I'll take the Tigers to cover in this game. What about you, Gene?
I think you pretty much spoke my feelings exactly. I always put the distraction factor pretty high on that because they know it's Scott Frost's last game there. There's a little emotion. There's some distraction going on. Obviously, Memphis trying to get a little revenge on this one. So, yeah, I like your pick there. Go ahead and give me Memphis.
Yeah, tough to beat a good team twice, especially after UCF thumped them earlier in the year. I'll go Memphis. I'm a little sketched out about this one just because I really liked watching UCF last week. They're a fun team to watch, but I'll take Memphis.
Yeah, if all the rumors are true, I think we can all pretty much definitively say it looks like Nebraska's got themselves a good one. So we move on. The Pac-12 title game. It's Southern Cal and the Cardinal of Stanford who are going to meet up in this one. It's the Trojans giving 3.5. Gene, I'll start with you on this one.
You know, the two certainties in life are that I will miss the Ohio State game and I will always miss a Pac-12 game in terms of the spread. I've been pretty much wrong in every single one this year, so go ahead and give me Stanford.
All right, and by the way, it is worth noting, that game's tonight. That's an 8 o'clock kick. We already mentioned it, 3.5 the spread, and I'm torn on this one, but Stanford's hot right now. They've gotten hot at the right time. They kind of do what they do. They look bad to start, and then they catch a little bit of fire. They've beaten Washington. They've beaten Notre Dame. They played a good one against Cal. I'll take the trees. I won't be shocked if I'm wrong here, though, either, Gene.
Yeah, I'll take Stanford here, too. I think they're able to run the ball really well. Obviously, we all know about their running back. I think Stanford more than likely is able to win this game.
We move on. Big 12 title game. First one of these we've had in quite some time, but it's TCU and the Oklahoma Sooners who are going to be playing each other. The Sooners are giving a touchdown to the Horned Frogs. Gene, how do you see it?
I've been riding the Sooners lately, and they've been very good to me in terms of covering that. That might have been, I don't know if they were on the schedule last week. Maybe that was the one I got right, but whatever the deal was. They've done pretty well lately, and I know it's hard to beat a team twice. It's only a touchdown in this one, so yeah, go ahead and give me the Sooners because your friend, Big Game Bob, isn't there, and this is a big game, so they might actually win this.
I'm with you here. This follows that script of Oklahoma going into the playoff red hot and then choking it away in the playoffs like they like to do. So I'm with you. I think Oklahoma covers this 7. I know TCU's a really good team, as we've already mentioned, and as you're going to hear a lot throughout these conference championship games. It's hard to beat a good team twice, but I just think that the Sooners are going to roll in this one. So give me Oklahoma.
I mean, I've mentioned time and time again, I think Oklahoma is probably the best team in the country. So I would be remiss here to not take them. So I'm going to go ahead and take Oklahoma here as well.
All right, let's move on, ladies and gents, from the Big 12 to the Big 10. It's Ohio State and Wisconsin playing in the Oil Drum in Indianapolis. The Buckeyes are giving 6 to Bucky Badger. Wisconsin's going to win this one straight up, gents, and do the playoff committee a gigantic favor. Give me Bucky Badger.
Boy, I hope you're right. Like I said, the other certainty in life is I always get, even last week, Ohio State, I picked them to try to screw them, but of course they win, but they still did not cover. So they got me both ways. But I'm going to go ahead and pick Ohio State again to try to screw Urban Meyer.
Do we know who's playing quarterback for Ohio State? Do we know?
That's a good question.
Is JT healthy or not?
I think so, but if not, Urban Meyer's going to find the guy who made sure he isn't.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Ohio State here too. I just think it's tough to count on Urban Meyer. This kind of seems to be what Ohio State does near the end of seasons. You know, they're going to muddy up the waters for this playoff committee, I think. It'll be interesting to see what happens when they're a 2-loss Big Ten champion over, you know, those other teams up near the top.
Or like Alabama, for instance.
Right, or potentially, you know, Miami, things like that. It'll be interesting to see.
We roll along. Georgia and Auburn are going to play at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. First ever SEC championship played there. Of course, Atlanta, though, a familiar home. I'd imagine Georgia will have a slight crowd edge. They've been waiting for this one for a long time with a chance at the college football playoffs on the line. Auburn is giving 2 to Georgia, and that's a rough line because I think this is the game of the day. This is going to be really good, but listen, I think Georgia, especially with the situation with a lot of Auburn's good rushers, maybe banged up coming into this game, maybe not even playing. This is so tough to me. It's so hard to beat somebody twice. Auburn got them on the road. I think that might have been a little bit of a wake-up call for Georgia. But when Auburn wins the Iron Bowl, they always come out emotionally hot the next Saturday. They never really seem to have that hangover. But when they go to the SEC championship game, you look at the last couple times, they score a ton of points on Missouri in 2013. They walloped a decent South Carolina team in 2010. I want to pick Georgia, but I just can't. Give me Auburn.
Yeah, I think I'm going to follow suit there. I mean, obviously, again, we get in this situation we talked about before. It's hard to beat a team twice, and obviously Auburn beat the snot out of Georgia. But let's face it, Auburn is playing really well right now. They're maybe the hottest team in college football. They demolished Georgia in that last game. It wasn't even a contest. And just to be a 2-point favorite in that, I just don't see any way you can take Georgia in this game. So, yeah, give me the Tigers.
Yeah, you brought it up. They demolished Georgia, and I think the issues that led Auburn to be able to beat Georgia so badly last time around are still going to be there around this time. But I get it. It is hard to beat a good team twice. But I think it was every year since 2009, except for 1 year, the winner of the Iron Bowl has played for the national title. Granted, Alabama has carried that flag rather for the most part. But I still think Auburn's going to win this game. I'll take them as well.
ACC Championship, another good game. Of course, Miami had some pretty rough injuries this week and has had a little bit of bad luck after that loss to Pitt. So it's the Clemson Tigers who are favored by 9 in Charlotte, North Carolina. One would imagine Clemson's going to have the crowd edge in this game. Clemson's going to win this football game, but I think Miami's going to cover that. I think they have a little bit of fight. They show up with a little bit of emotional bite after that letdown at Pittsburgh. I won't be shocked if this one's decided in the last couple minutes of this football game. The Canes cover, but Clemson probably wins.
Yeah, this is one of those games I look at that line, I don't like it because it's just hard to gauge. I'm with you 100%. Clemson should win this game. Man, 9 points is a lot. I don't know. I definitely wouldn't bet this. I'll go ahead, just to be different, I'll go ahead and take Clemson in this, but I know they're going to win. Will they cover? At 50-50 in my mind, but for the record, I'll take the Tigers.
Yeah, this one, that line is weird to me. I have the utmost confidence in the fact that Clemson's going to win this game. I just think Malik Rozier, I think you've seen his deficiencies all year, and it kind of came back to bite them. Miami has played not well on the road. They're going to be away from home here, obviously. Yep. I'm going to take Clemson. I think Clemson can get it done by anywhere from 10 to 14. I like Clemson here late. I might get a backdoor bust late, but we'll see.
A rumor, a contract, a plane flight, a Board of Regents meeting, and a mic from Tallahassee later. We play Florida State versus ULM at Doak Campbell Stadium. The Seminoles are either going to be under an interim head coach or they're going to be under Jimbo Fisher. Who knows at this point? But we do know that the Seminoles, as we speak, are giving 27 to ULM. That's a tricky number. I will most certainly say that because that's one of those ones where you just look at the spread and you say, yeah, Vegas pretty much has that one right. I think Florida State covers this slightly. I think it's about a 30-point win for the Noles, so give me Florida State.
Yeah, if I were betting, I'd feel a little bit better if you gave me about another point and a half on this one because, yeah, you're right. That's probably right about the number. You know what? I'm going to, again, go with the distraction factor. Everything going on, I think they're going to be a little unfocused for the game. Yeah, the Florida State's going to win the game, but that is a lot of points at the end of the day. And even you got to worry about a little backdoor cover. Maybe Florida State, like you said, it's up to 30, and then ULM scores a touchdown late against the walk-ons or the backup. So I'm going to go ahead and say Florida State wins, but ULM covers the spread.
Yeah, I think this is an emotional day for a lot of Florida State guys. I think there's been a lot of distractions. I think, I doubt they've really prepared a lot for this game. But ULM, by the way, just had a game against Auburn where they were hanging in there for a little bit. How does that play here? I'm not sure. I'm gonna go ahead and take ULM to cover in this one. 27's a little much for me. I'll take ULM.
All right, gentlemen, it's going to be an interesting weekend no matter what happens, but that's it for us. Boss Man, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks, guys, for having me.
All right, so we don't know what's going to happen this weekend, completely off the bat, but we do know that we have a resource called warchant.com. It's kind of what makes this show happen. And all over the weekend, keep it bookmarked, stay posted. If there's something crazy, we might put in an emergency podcast together, an emergency War Chant report or something like that. You'll know, because we'll let you know. But stay posted. We're going to get all that done. We'll talk to you on Monday at the absolute latest. Golick and Wingo's up next, 97.9 ESPN Radio.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.